Hi Taurus, welcome to your September 2018 Astro Update. It's Raina here. So in September, if you're looking for love, this could be an awesome month for that. Because as we begin the month, we have the Sun in Virgo. Virgo is a sister Earth sign, and it's in your fifth house of love and creativity and children. And actually, the Sun rules the fifth house, so it's even more efficient, if you will, or it resonates even stronger when the planet ruling the house is actually in that house. So maybe it can be more powerful for you. And Mercury will be joining the Sun in this fifth house on the 5th of September. Until that date, Mercury is in the fourth house of home and family. So you may have noticed, even if you've been watching in the month of August, you may have been talking to your mother more. And this will continue into the beginning of September. Remember that Mercury went retrograde in Leo. So it went direct on the 19th, and things may start to iron themselves out if there's any kind of misunderstanding in that area. So with fourth house matters, we're talking about maybe a contract that has to do with a house or communications with your mother. Anything to do with home and family issues might have gotten a little bit confusing, and everything gets sorted out. But you, at the beginning of the month, you still may be doing something along those lines. And then Mercury goes into the fifth house. And with Mercury in the fifth house, you may be talking to somebody that you have a crush on. Maybe you're in that talking stage. You know, I notice that nowadays people say when they are, I really don't know what, they'll say, we're talking. You can write down below if it actually means more than talking, because sometimes I think it does too. But they'll say me and her are talking, and it's like, okay, so you're having conversations, right? But it could be a little bit more than that. But yeah, but this could be literally that you are in communication with somebody who you have a romantic interest in. And so that's on the 5th. And then the very next day, Saturn goes direct. Now, Saturn's been retrograde since April. And this is in an early degree of Capricorn. It goes direct, and this is in your 9th house, which deals with expansive topics. Okay, so we're talking about the higher mind, university level education, or teaching even, if that's what you do, if you're a teacher and not just a student. It can deal, it's called the God House, so it can deal with anything related to issues surrounding spirituality. But to me, versus the 12th house, it's more on the intellectual level, or, you know, really understanding philosophy. Not just the whole religious experience, but the reasoning behind it. So again, with the mind, and not, you know, which I like, you know, I actually like that about the 9th house, because sometimes people just blindly follow something because it appeals to them emotionally. And yet intellectually, if you can make sense of what your beliefs are, then to me, it's all the better, because then you're not just going on your emotions, which can be reactions and not necessarily anything constructive or logical that can actually advance your life, and or superstition. So, you know, it might sound funny since I'm an astrologer that I'm saying that, but that's one of the reasons why I like astrology, is because it's not just about emotion. It's about, okay, let's look at these influences in our life and how, how can we best take advantage of them, and how can we de-emphasize some of the not so positive traits. So with Saturn in retrograde motion for, gosh, how long has it been? 5 months? If you have wanted to be maybe going abroad, Taurus, to a foreign country or something like that, your plans might have gotten all fouled up and you felt like there was nothing you could do about it. Well, now there might be. There's a lot going on in that house for you. You've got Pluto there, and that Pluto has been taking up residence for 10 years there. And you have, of course, Saturn, but you also have Mars there. And that means that, an example would be like if you have been trying to get maybe even just enter college, and you felt like all these obstacles have been in your way. Remember that Saturn is a lord of karma. And as such, there may be something in your particular path where you're not supposed to be doing something, perhaps at all, or maybe just temporarily, and that you were meant to be doing something else. I believe that there are some times when we cannot alter fate. I don't think that we have complete free will, at least not on this side of the veil. But likewise, I think, and I should say, and because of that, I think sometimes we do have to surrender to these obstacles and not try to fight them. It takes a discerning mind to be able to know the difference, though, because I know some people who are very passive and they just give up right away, and I'm not in favor of that. But if you notice that doors keep closing, maybe you're trying to teach abroad, live abroad, go to a university and you couldn't get in, or you couldn't get the funding, then ask yourself, okay, what is my plan B? Do I have anything else? Am I putting all my eggs into one basket? And with Taurus, a lot of times the answer will be a resounding yes, I am. Because Taurus is a fixed sign. Once you get it into your mind, especially if you have Mercury in Taurus, and forget about it, you're obsessed with doing a certain thing. And then you can just be that's where the fixed sign, fixated on things. Fixated on an idea and too stubborn to let it go. So now we can see what shakes out. And the thing about Saturn in the 9th house is if you have been in a certain degree program at a university, you may find that this provides you a foundation for the next 30 years where you can, it's like laying the groundwork. And I think of the farmer, just as a great analogy with Taurus, because you are an earth sign. The farmer sowing the seeds. But you have to till the soil, and that soil has to be nice and rich and, able to yield a large crop. Well, that could be you attending a certain degree program and getting a degree, and that can serve you for many years to come. For others, it may be taking a trip far, far away. That even though it seems open-ended and you're not working, you're having life experiences that could really help you down the line in some way. So it all depends on what your goals are. Or a spiritual practice that you can lean on in times of confusion and stress. So, on the 9th, Venus, which has been in your 6th house of health and work, goes into the 7th house, which is a more romantic house. It's the house of committed partnership. So let's just talk about Venus in the 6th, because it is going to be there for 9 days. Venus in the 6th house can even be a bump in your income through the work that you do, because the 6th house is your workplace. And so this could be like earning more money. Venus can bring more money when she travels through a house. And this can also be harmony with coworkers, having pleasant surroundings, maybe even having your office renovated or decorated in a different way, and it makes it more pleasant to go to work. In the 7th house, this is the house that can deal with legal documents too. So yeah, a marriage license is a legal document, I suppose, but so is anything to do with a contract with work. Maybe there's some kind of, if you work for yourself, for instance, you may have contracts with suppliers, or depending on what you do, if you have a business, a company, and dealing with these kinds of things. But it can also be love, obviously. So I told you about the 5th house, and now we're talking about the 7th house. I'm wondering, because on the same day that this is happening, there's a new moon in your 5th house of love. So very interesting synchronicity here. And perhaps if you are getting divorced, Venus in the 7th house means that you have ended a battle with an ex-spouse, and now you're on friendly terms. So I don't want to give the impression that everyone with Venus in the 7th house is having a happy marriage and they're getting back together with their ex-spouse. No, not necessarily at all. This seems like a good time to remind everyone that these are general readings. Only in private readings can you pinpoint when transits are going to occur for you because of the degree of sun or rising that you have. This totally affects the way the houses are structured. And if you're listening to this for your sun in Taurus, your rising sign determines the house structure. So Venus may be in a totally different house with the natal chart. So take all, the point of that was to take all of this with a grain of salt. Don't get too hung up on the dates. But in this general forecast, what we're talking about here is a sense of new love coming into your life and a sense of harmony in your partnerships. So I'll leave that there, and you can decide what that means for you. Because it does seem like, okay, is this Taurus person having new love and a nice marriage at the same time? Are they opening up their marriage? I don't think so. Okay. So then on the 10th, we have Mars going from Capricorn to Aquarius. And for you, when Mars is in Capricorn, that's your 9th house. When it goes to Aquarius, it's your 10th house of career. Let's start with the 9th house, because Capricorn, or Mars was retrograde here recently. And now that it's direct, it's moving forward and it's going back into Aquarius. But when it's in the 9th house, it makes you really feeling that need to just travel, wanting, maybe being a bit antsy and not wanting to be in the same old place. I think of the 3 of Wands in the tarot, wanting that expansion, which is what the 9th house is all about. And so having like wanderlust, that's the best way of putting it. And you may have felt like your hands were tied when Mars was retrograde, that you couldn't do what you want to do, kind of what I was talking about with Saturn. But instead of fulfilling ambition, we're just talking about movement. Although, yeah, I can see, Mars is about a person's drive. So in a sense, we could say that both of these, Saturn and Mars, want to push the person forward into more achievement. But the ninth house is a philosophical house. So if there's something going on that relates to your ambitions, there's a good chance that this will be on the mental or intellectual level. Perhaps you want to pursue a degree, and you just feel very strongly about that. You've had trouble being able to get it together, and maybe now is the time that it's coming into fruition for you. But Mars goes into the 10th on the 10th of September, so this shows that you are also ambitious about work matters. Maybe those two areas are connected. Maybe you feel that the only way you're going to be able to get ahead in your career is by getting either a college degree or an advanced degree. And so the thing to avoid when Mars is in the 10th house is being overly aggressive. Sometimes when we feel like we've been pent up, which basically is how I would characterize Mars retrograde, we overdo it, right? We're like this crazed person who's just being let out of jail. And don't want to do that because that could lead to just making bad choices. Mars can be rash, and we want to be very deliberate, and Taurus tends to be a very deliberate sign. But this could be very good for working hard. I mean, actually having the physical stamina to work hard on your career at this time. On the 21st, we have Mercury entering Libra. This, again, that's 6th house of yours. And Mercury, I would say, this is just my own opinion, is very nice in Libra because Libra is an air sign, and Mercury does rule not only Virgo, but also Gemini, a fellow air sign. So Mercury in Libra can lead to diplomatic conversations. And this is in the 6th house, so this could be about work matters. So if you need to negotiate, it's really great because Libra can see all sides of a situation, is gracious, and you catch more flies with honey, as they say. There could be some kind of contract that relates to work that you have to sign. And Mercury is also the ruler of the 6th house through Virgo and can deal with diet. So you may be thinking about that or researching that or what have you. The next day on the 22nd, the sun goes into Libra, a very important time as it is one of the 4 seasons. In this case, fall in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern. And it's in that 6th house. So you have a lot of health matters that you may be like thinking about, the theme of health and order in your life, Taurus, and even order with your health. Maybe you've been kind of, self-indulgent. Taurians, being ruled by Venus, love to enjoy pleasure through the senses, and including like the taste. And a lot of Taurus people may be foodies and love flavor, love to cook and things like that, but perhaps you need to find things that are less rich, foods that are flavorful but less rich and less clogging, because I could see a Taurus person just loving loving everything that is ooey and gooey and creamy and everything. And that might be something that has to be looked at in terms of the system operating in an optimal way. And so we end the month, well, it's not exactly the end of the month, it's on the 24th, but the end of these major transits where we have the full moon in Aries. It's at 1 degree of Aries. And this is going to be in your 12th house, Taurus. Now, let me see. I'm going to just look right now at the ephemeris because I want to see where Uranus is going to be at this time, if it's going to have gone back into Aries. Because remember that in mid-May, actually the same day as the new moon in Taurus, we had Uranus going into your sign as well. And then it went retrograde, and it is going back into Aries at some point, but I wanted to see if it was in September. No, it is not. So it will still be in Taurus at this time at 1 degree of Taurus. So hardly, oh, wow, yeah. No. Hello. I was, I want to see like in October because now that's what we want to focus on next month. That should be very interesting. In October, at the end of October, October 24th, there will be a full moon in your sign, Taurus. I think it's 1 degree. And Uranus will be 0 degrees of Taurus. So it will form a conjunction, Uranus and that full moon. And that should be incredibly psychic. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So this full moon in the 12th house can be a time of really becoming aware of that which trips you up in life, Taurus. And this could come in the form of dreams. This could come in the form of just a sudden insight, a sudden aha moment about addictions, patterns, karmic patterns. The 12th house is about karma. And karmic patterns are patterns that you participated in. And so you would have to own those patterns and not act like they're coming out of thin air. The patterns exist because the behavior has existed to go along with it. And so it's very important for people who notice patterns in this lifetime to consider that maybe these are just deeply ingrained in us from lifetime after lifetime. And the point isn't to blame something like a past life on bad behavior, but to understand that we have the power to eradicate it if we acknowledge it in the first place. And how many people are in denial over some things, or they blame other people for them, and they don't take responsibility. And therefore, it perpetuates. So that can actually be a very liberating time for Taurus people, because you may realize that you hold the key and that you have been allowing yourself to do certain things that kind of have a snowball effect on your life. And sometimes I think once you just know that it's there, it's like gone. I'm not going to say that happens every single time, but the intellectual understanding of something can be quite powerful because it's no longer unconscious or subconscious. It's something you're totally aware of. And it can change your thought patterns surrounding it. Okay, well, that's what I have for you, Taurus. If you like this type of reading, I do this in my private natal chart interpretations. And I will link both types. One is also looking at these personality traits. So if you feel stuck in certain patterns and don't know why, I can't claim that I'm going to totally, liberate you from them or even pinpoint all of them, but I might. There's a chance, and that's all we need is a chance. The point being that I think knowledge is power, and also acknowledging talent, because some people have been treated like their dreams are a joke, that the things that you feel like you came here to do are like pie in the sky. And when you see those things in your chart, or you have somebody tell you who you have not told your dreams to, and they kind of pick it out in the chart, it can be like an amazing experience. That has happened when I've done readings where somebody hasn't told me that they were a musician or they wanted to be one or they gave it up. And I acknowledge that. It seems like, especially with creative pursuits, this is where a lot of people get discouraged or are discouraged by others. And those people may be well-meaning. They just might think it's impractical to be involved with something in the creative arts. And the chart can show that's potential for that. Nobody can guarantee that you're going to be a smash hit, that you're not going to have to ever have a day job. I can't do that. But what I can do is at least get the ball rolling if I, point something out. And that's what I love to do. I love to kind of inspire people to follow their bliss by looking at the chart and looking also at the patterns, and empower them to feel like they have options in their life, that they can get over a certain problem. And then there's the astrological trends that are for the next year that I also look at. And it's not like every single transit that's coming for the next year. It's actually looking at the bigger picture, like how, what areas are really lit up, and what does my money look like in the next year? What does my, work life, my career? Do you see anything, big in this area? But you have to understand that even if somebody doesn't see anything like major happening in your career sector, it would not be wise to assume that you're not going to have anything happen, because it's all about interpretation. It really is. Someone might not have that area lit up, but who knows? Maybe it's an area that's actually going to be quite harmonious for you. And you can have an area lit up, and there's a lot of challenges in that area. So it doesn't, the predictive part of it, at least in my mind, is that it's helping us to see that we have cycles in life, and this too shall pass. If you're having difficulties and you seem like you're doing everything right, and it doesn't work, and then you find out that you have Mars retrograde in a certain house, it's like, oh man, why didn't I know this? And I could have laid low, or I could have just done internal work at that time and not beat myself up over it and thought that I was doing something wrong. So to me, it's more of taking a lot of the pressure off of us to feel like, oh my gosh, we have to do this or we have to do that in our life, and we can let things flow more, but at the same time that we can take advantage of things. If we're coming into a great cycle, Jupiter's in our career sector, we know that we have this assistance from the universe. And so this is not the time to lay low and not go for your dreams, or not try to advance your career, because that would really be, like squandering this wonderful opportunity. So it's more of like a self-empowerment thing than I don't call myself a fortune teller or anything like that, because it really does take the person and their choices that they make in life. And some people are really they're really like go-getters, and they don't need an astrological chart to tell them to go for it. They're always, aligned just intuitively. Some people just are naturally like that, but some of us really want to know what our cycles are like at the moment so that we can be relieved if we're experiencing obstacles, and we can be inspired if we're trying to accomplish something and there's a great transit in that area. Okay, well, the links to my readings are below, and I will see you later. Have a wonderful month. Bye.